Hi, I'm Daisy, and today I'm going to be talking about creative coding. And before I start, I'll just tell you my main purpose of giving this talk is, one, to sort of introduce you to the topic of creative coding and sort of what you can do with this stuff, but also to hopefully get you as excited and as passionate about this topic as I am. So let's get started. So before I do, I thought I'd give you a brief background about me. I'm currently a JavaScript developer working at Domain, but throughout my career, I've usually held the title as a creative developer, but I don't do that anymore. But I love this topic so much that I still go home at nighttime and play with this sort of thing. And I'm also aware that the sort of role creative developer can sometimes sound a bit confusing, but hopefully through this talk, it'll make a bit more sense about what these people do. So yeah, let's start with, like, what the fuck is creative coding, right? Okay. Well, it's fucking amazing. I fucking love this shit, okay? I'm so passionate about this thing, and I really, can't state how fun this crap is. So that's one point. But on a serious note, I stole this definition from Wikipedia. So it describes creative coding as a type of computer programming in which the goal is to create something more expressive rather than something functional. And I think the key things to highlight here is that it's expressive rather than functional, right? Which means it doesn't have to have a purpose or fulfill a goal or a need, right? It can be fucking useless. It doesn't matter. It can be whatever you want to make. And I think this definition resonates really well with something called generative art. And for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's any piece of artwork that is powered through the use of coding, which I think this is great. But I think creative coding is also a little bit something more, so I like to tack this onto the end. It's also about experimenting and playing with code in non-traditional ways. Again, what the fuck do I mean by non-traditional ways? Hopefully in the next few slides, I'll sort of elaborate on what I mean by that. So now I want to share with you a few different possibilities of things that you can create with creative coding. And I also want to state that creative coding is a very broad topic, and I don't have a lot of time today, but I'm going to touch on as much as I can. So, sure, if this video plays, that would be great. So what you see behind me is something that I worked on a few years ago with a friend of mine. And the brief was, General Assembly was holding an event, and they just wanted a 1-minute video of some graphics they could play in the background while people were moving around and such. So this is what we created, just random crap, just graphics. But it's all powered through code. It's all made from JavaScript, using libraries like 3.js, which is for 3D in the browser, and the Canvas API. So yeah, this is some of the graphics and stuff you can do. But also, this is an example of a prototype that I built using an Arduino board connected to an accelerometer. And if anybody doesn't know what an accelerometer is, it's pretty much just a gyroscope that allows us to measure an object's orientation and velocity. And this was sort of to explore different ways that users should interact with different applications. And from here, when I move this accelerometer around, that's what's controlling the cube on the screen. So yeah, you can explore these sorts of things. Another really cool thing you can do is you can fucking make music with code. Like, that's fucking cool, right? It's not a website, nothing. But I think this is really awesome. So every line of code that you write, you can actually generate music. In my case, when I do this, it doesn't sound like music. It just sounds like dying whales and random noises. But so just to do my thing, I'll show you this quick video to show you what it actually does. But it's a video of a man named Sam Aaron who developed this software called SonidPy. And SonidPy just allows you to write Ruby code and make music in some cases. So how do you play this video? Yeah. This is some of the stuff that you can do. Yeah. This is him live coding on the spot, generating music with each sort of change. And yeah. That's pretty fucking cool. If you didn't want to be a developer anymore, you could be a musician. Live that dream. But yeah, to follow on, so I touched on graphics, hardware, user interactions, and music, right? But other things that you can do is this really cool example that I saw recently. So this is the front cover of the June edition of the Times magazine. And this is really awesome because they recreated their front cover by programming just under 1,000 drones to fly up into the sky and recreate this iconic image. And this is fucking awesome because they literally took the quote of "the sky's the limit" and fucking did it. Like, we always think that graphics are like printed out or displayed on a screen, but now you can actually put them in the sky. That's fucking mind-blowing. And I think that's a part of creative coding, is sort of exploring new boundaries and pushing things further than what we always think should be done with stuff. So Yeah, so it was really good that that keynote covered machine learning today, so I don't have to explain what this is. But I just really wanted to share this stuff with you because right now machine learning is becoming really big, especially in the creative coding scene. And some of the stuff that's coming out is fucking mind-blowing. So let me explain what's going on in this demo. This was built by a person named Mimo Atkin. And on the left, you can see just a video capturing a user putting some random objects on a table, right? But that's been fed into the application, which they've trained their machine learning model to view thousands and thousands of images of ocean scenes, right? And on the fly, this application is now like figuring it out and recreating its own ocean scene from whatever's being done on the left. And if you're not fucking impressed by that, jeez, like, that's really fucking cool. But I highly recommend you go check out this stuff because there's some really cool things going on there. But yeah, so I feel like most of the examples I showed you then were a bit more technical. They kind of touched on different frameworks or technologies or like already built stuff to build with. But part of creative coding is about like the conceptual ideas that go behind things. And I think that's a really important part to talk about. So I'd like to share this with you. This is a project that I worked on a few years ago while I was at Google. And we partnered with a book publishing company called Visual Editions. And so this image here is a series of books that we released. So there was 4 of them. But they're all actually websites as well. And before we started this, all of the authors hadn't written their books yet. So we started with this one line, which was, how can the dynamic qualities of the web influence writing for writers to write to? And usually when I say that, nobody understands what it is that I'm actually talking about. So I'll pose this to you. Imagine a book that could lie to you, right? You can't really do that with a physical book. But if you do combine it with a website and coding, you can actually make this happen. So imagine reading a few pages of a book and then going back and then discovering that your favorite character has actually been lying the whole time and they've changed their text. You can now give like a deeper sort of connection for readers to attach themselves to. But yeah, that was like all of these books were built over the span of a year, and it was all about exploring how technology could sort of influence writing for writers to write to. But yeah, you should go check those out. But yeah, other stuff that you can do is you can turn really mundane, boring things into something a little bit more playful. So this is something that I built right before I moved to London. I was moving there in 2 weeks, and I didn't have a job, and I was like, probably should get one. So I needed to get my resume together and do all this shit. And I was unemployed at the time, and that meant I had a lot of free time. So I was thinking, I was like, there are these really amazing companies that I want to work for, and it's really competitive to get into them. And I was like, I would give my left arm to work with these people. So I did what any sane person would do. I ran down to the GP. I said, X-ray my arm. Went straight home, photocopied it, put it on my website, and made this simple hover effect that said, hire me, I'm fucking broke, right? And bada bing, bada boom, I attached this with my resume, I tweeted it out to the companies that I wanted, and then I had a job. This is great. Tiny little creativity from one line, going from, I would give my left arm to work for you, to a simple CSS hover effect, right? You can sort of make a boring old resume into something a bit more playful. And I just want to highlight this as well because lots of the examples that I showed you as well were using like really fancy new technology like machine learning or programming drones, but you can do it with simple tech like CSS, right? It's just about ideas and creativity that can bring things to life. So yeah, maybe something that I showed you then got you a little bit inspired, a little bit interested to want to play with this stuff. So I thought now I'd talk about how you could probably get started and then share a few experiences about how I do stuff, right? So, yes, I just thought I would start by stating this. This is my actual level of math skills. That's what I can do. Thank you, Megan's math talk, which got me very confused, but now I'm much more educated. But yeah, this is what I can do. And in creative coding, you can start to realize when you do things that you might discover that there's a lot of math that's involved sometimes. And I just want to encourage you not to be scared, because if this is me and I can do this, you can do it too, okay? So, I think like anything, like even when we learn to study programming, we start with the basics, right? So I'd like to sort of do a quick run through about how we could start with some basics of math and incorporate that into code. So, this is a boring cube, okay? But our goal is to turn this cube into a little animation that goes up and down simultaneously, right? Back and forward. Please don't read too much into this code because it is just smashed together in like a sort of way that you might do this with JavaScript. So we'd have some traditional statements where we're checking if this boolean is going up and down. I'm not going to go through it all because it's really boring and it's fucking messy, right? But generally, we're checking the position and we just want to go plus or minus, yeah? This is our result from that code. It's cool. It's going up and down. It's going back and forward. It's kind of going faster, and then it shit itself. Fuck. So I'd have to go back into this code, and like, there's quite a bit going on there, and tweak it around and figure out where my bug is, right? But what if I said we could sort of delete all of this and just replace it with one line? So, we can replace it with this, and we can use a sine wave. And this is a really handy function, and you will see it used a lot in creative coding. And I'd like to all remind you about the calculator slide I showed you before. So I'm going to try and quickly explain to you a sine wave. Right. I like to do it with a visual. So this is an actual representation of what a sine wave is doing. And you can mainly think of a sine wave as like in the ocean when like things go up and then they go down with like some buoyancy. That's kind of what it does. Cool? You're all with me? Yeah, you look great. So yeah, this is the result of using a sine wave. And it's really nice and it's really smooth. And if there was a problem that I didn't like the speed with it, okay, I would only have to go back and debug one line of code rather than the 20 that we saw before. So learn some maths. It's fun. But yes, another handy tip is, I know I talked a lot about ideas and like, it's really cool and it makes fucking great work, right? But we don't always have creative shit lying around in our head to build. So this is what I do when I can't think of anything. If I see something really beautiful and I'm like, oh, this is awesome, I'll try and reproduce it to sort of learn these skills. And this is something I found built by somebody named Yassi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's just a quick sketch they had on open processing, and it uses Perlin noise. And I thought this looked really pretty, and it all animates like this slide here. And I wanted to build something like that. That looks really cool. So I'm just going to walk you through my process of how I went about recreating this. So I also at the time thought I'll learn this new library called P5JS. So that has a built-in setup function, which here you can see I'm just creating a canvas, setting a background color, and then adjusting some styles to my lines, right? And also, just so you can see, there are 3 different colored lines in there, so I've used 3 different colored arrays, yeah? But all the magic is going to happen in this line object. So first I'll set up a few variables like direction, velocity, position, and speed, which I think I'm going to have to use throughout this animation. And all the animation is going to happen in this move function, okay? So just like any great developer that knows exactly what they're doing, I just throw in some sine waves when I do stuff. I'm just like, yeah, sine waves will save the fucking day. So I just put a sine wave to my X and Y position, and then I refresh my page, and yeah, I'm fucking excited. I've got 3 different colored lines, so at least they're all going in like a direction. It's not that interesting, but I'm pretty excited. So, I go back. What I really want now is I want them to start curving. I want them to move around. This is a bit boring. So, I think maybe this is when I need to use this noise function, okay? And for anyone that doesn't know what noise is as well, it's sort of just like a math algorithm that will generate you a bunch of random values, but in a very smooth and organic way. So, here I've just added a noise function, and just for shits and giggles, I've put a little division in there with a noise offset, because, you know, I like math, right? Refresh my page, I'm like, all right, cool. I got wavy lines. It's kind of like seaweed. I'm digging it. It's cool. But I was like, oh, I thought that would kind of make you go in a circular motion, right? That's what I was going for. So in math, like Megan said, she explained pi, right? And when we think of circles, we think of pi. So I'm going to just times this by pi. I'm like, yeah, I've got this. This is spot on. All right, not really, right? It's like, it's still interesting. I'm like, cool, that is not what I thought was going to happen. But it's like trees, it's roots, whatever. Okay, back to the drawing board. I'm going to get there. But because I thought that original pi was like my solution, I now don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just like changing some values. I'll just bump this down to 10. Why not? I'll just times some shit over here, and hey, let's throw in a bit of division, right? But I'm feeling really good when I'm typing this. I'm just like a fucking mathematician. mathematician, I got this shit down. And like, it even happens in normal programming when you get this confident and then you like refresh your browser and you're like, oh shit, what happened? It's kind of like, I took like 1 step forward, 3 steps back, now I've got a pile of shit on the screen. Okay, but I want to get there, like, what is wrong? So I'm going to take it slow, and I'm just, okay, I'll just bump this number up to 500. Maybe the lines are so small because I made it, like, the number so small. Right, and then I'll just delete that division I had here because I didn't know what I was doing. And cool, right? Okay, few little steps, and, like, I'm kind of getting there. It kind of looks like what I want. I don't know what fuck happened up here. But I still personally kind of like it. I'm like, that's an artwork in itself. But I want to get there. I want to figure out how to actually make that thing. So, back to the drawing board. I'm like, okay, if I bump that number lower, maybe I'll just, you know, times this instead of dividing it like I was doing before. What? It fucking looks like the thing that I tried to do. So, I don't know. At this stage, I was pretty happy. And I'm like, this, yeah, like, it's not perfect, obviously, as you can see here, but I like it. It kind of suits my personality, right? But yeah, this is the final animation. And, but yeah, so that's it. I really enjoy watching this on my computer. It's like watching like a 90s screensaver. Really. So it fills me with pure joy. But yeah, from that, I just encourage you to see where your code takes you, because I set out to create one artwork, but I feel like I got 4 out of that in between. And also you could tell in the middle there where I broke everything, I felt a little bit unconfident. But if you do get to that moment, like, don't fret. Like, if you're not breaking stuff, you're probably not learning as much as you could. So, moving on from that. Other things that you can do to find inspiration for projects is looking at different inputs and outputs that you can use. So you could consider using different devices and stuff like, so maybe using the accelerometer that's built into your phone. Maybe this pencil should have been deleted from the fucking slide because I'd never get it every time. Maybe it's about using a microphone as an input and taking sound. Or maybe it's about buttons and touching and clicking. Or maybe it's about using actual sensors to interact with users in a physical environment. You can then pair that with different outputs. So maybe it's going to be an artwork or a graphic or an animation. Maybe it's going to be music like the Sonic Pi stuff. Maybe it's about programming drones or built-in hardware. Maybe it's got a completely different output where one thing will interact with another thing. You could also do stuff with lighting or staging environments, or maybe it's some other piece of magic that I haven't even touched on here. Like, the possibilities are endless. It's just about what you can think of. I mean, you could go home today and program your smart vacuum cleaner to paint you a beautiful picture of something, right? It's a good idea. Still haven't built it. But yeah, other things that you can do is find inspiration from themes. That's a really big thing in creative coding. This example here is something that I built while I was in London, and I had a few hours to kill before I went out to Pride, which is pretty much just like a Mardi Gras. And I was sitting there like, okay, fine. I'll just make a quick sketch. And this is what I made. It's rainbows and honeypots, right? It's fucking, like when you move your mouse around, your honeypot follows your thing. Like, it's great. It's completely fucking useless though. But I had the time of my life, and I have this pretty thing to show you. But I encourage you to, like, if you've got a spare 2 hours, try play with something. And if you're struggling for ideas, take a word, take a day of, like, lots of creative creators hover around like Valentine's Day, Christmas, April Fool's Day, and like use that to play with stuff. But yeah, other thing is learning to prototype is a really handy tool as well if you want to become a creative developer. Prototypes can help you, especially when you're sort of talking to creatives that have these fucking random ideas that are like, oh, that's really fucking cool, but is it even possible? Prototyping can help you figure it out quickly. So it can help solve stuff like, can you build it in 2 weeks? Or can you even afford 1,000 drones? Or maybe the technology just isn't ready yet. So that's what prototyping can help with. But now it's time for demos. So yeah, this first demo I call the clock demo. And I'll share with you a bit of a backstory, okay? But this is something that I built a very long time ago when I was a junior. And this, to this day, is my absolute favorite thing I've ever built. And I'm really proud of it. Because as a junior, I was completely, like, not confident in what I was doing. Could not understand what functions were doing. Couldn't understand how stuff got passed around. Made no sense, right? But this really helped me. So I was in a meeting one day, and my really good friend Nikki, who's an amazing designer, came in with this fucking idea. She was like, imagine a book that was about time, and every single like word in there was made of a clock, and it would all spin around and like reveal words. And you're like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. But me being the creative developer in the room, everybody turns to me and goes, Daisy, can you build this? And I'm like, no, I can't do that. But, you know, I'm just like smiling and nodding like, yeah, in my head, I'm just going, fuck no, I can't do this. This is probably going to take me 3 months. I'm not sure. But I left the meeting and was like, okay, I better start working on it. So I did what I usually do. And I jumped on Google and I was like, how to make words out of clocks spinning around in JavaScript, right? To no surprise, I had 0 fucking results. And I was up shit's creek. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I did this thing that I had never done before in my career where I just walked away from my computer. I took a paper and pen and I started just brainstorming this idea and working through the problem slowly. And then, like, after a few, good 10 minutes, I wouldn't say a minute, but I started to realize that I think that's how functions work, right? I think, this is making sense. Within 30 minutes, I felt confident enough to go to my computer and start programming this. And to my actual surprise, by the end of that afternoon, I had a working prototype. Fuck me, okay, that's... Oh, sorry, I just got a 5-minute thing. I said, I'm not done yet. But let me just show you this prototype of what I built. So, remember, I'm really proud of this, so just smile and nod if you don't like it. But, this is it. This is like a working, it's letters spinning out of clocks, right? Yeah. And I love this demo because it's what made me fall in love with creative coding, and it's what made me understand how to program as well. So maybe if you're ever struggling and you're, finding it hard, try something fun like creative coding and maybe it'll all sort of make sense. This next demo I call the honeypot demo. And this is something that I built recently, and it was because I really wanted to learn machine learning. I thought it was really cool, and I want to learn how to do that. So I was struggling to find an idea, and I was giving this talk at a different conference, but I was chatting to a friend, and we were discussing, we were like, when you're really nervous and then you get on stage, people always say imagine the audience in their underwear, helps de-stress you. I'm like, that's kind of fucking weird, but I get your point. I promise I'm not doing that now. It's not my thing. So I ran with this idea, and I was like, imagine if you were in uncomfortable situations and you can turn people into different objects that made you feel a little bit safer. In my case, I like honeypots. So I'm not going to bother loading it up because it takes a long time because my computer's slow. But this is a gif of me in my most joyful moment when I got this code working. And I turned myself into a honeypot in my living room, and for a good hour, this is just what I did. But, so I forgot my whole point because I got distracted. But creative coding is really fun and can help you learn new technologies and new things while having the time of your life. This next one is interactive. So if anybody has their phone out, you are welcome to go to this URL. And before you touch anything on the, type it in, but just don't touch the screen yet. I asked you if you could turn it landscape mode as well. And I built this because I thought it'd be interesting to give you all the chance to be a part of actually creating some generative art now. You can go around and you can click or you can draw or do whatever you want. Like clicking will just generate lines and do whatever it is. But it takes the same thing that I made earlier with the generative, the line thing that I showed, but sort of pushes it a bit further. So sometimes when you do have one idea which you think is done and you're finished, you can always kind of push it a little bit further. And this demo just uses Node and WebSockets to sort of allow you all to be drawing together and make stuff. But yeah, that's generative art. Sometimes it looks like a pile of shit, but there you go. I will just quickly go through all this stuff. So, I will share these slides later. These are mainly just for you to remember later. But anyway, there's lots of different libraries, frameworks, and softwares out there for you to use if you want to actually try this stuff out. Different stuff for music, graphics, AR, VR, and machine learning. You can also buy already made devices, so maybe you want a VR headset, maybe some different sensors and hardware, or maybe some already built products that already track body movements, like the Kinect or the Leap Motion, which does hand tracking. Resources. Again, I'll just go quickly through this. This is a bunch of stuff to get you inspired about different things and if you want some resources and some cool people to follow. But I also encourage you as well with, if you're really interested in this sort of thing, it's always really good to keep up to date and I'm running out of time here. I've just got some eyes over there. Fucking wait. I'll just recap. So, the benefits of learning this sort of thing is that, one, it's a fun approach to learning, right? Like, if you're kind of bored making forms and shit, like, why not try making some lines grow and stuff? It's also a fun way to get to play with the latest tech first, like machine learning, and do something interesting rather than trying to calculate if somebody drew a 1 or a fucking 0. You can also learn more about different topics like maths and physics. And also, if you do take it up as an actual role in a career, you can learn how to communicate a lot better to people that are not technical. So yeah, just to round up what I said, creative coding is meant to be expressive rather than functional. So fuck what everybody says. Don't bother making things that, have to be useful and, relevant. And I encourage you to think of code as just another medium for us to create with. Just like artists can use paint to paint with, we as developers can use code to create whatever it is that we can think of. I encourage you to start small as well and create sketches. There's nothing wrong with not having a big project in mind. And also take your imagination and run with it. Don't be afraid to make useless things that, everybody thinks is really stupid, because sometimes stupid things create really great stuff. From my point, but my final thing to leave you with is, stay curious with everything that you do. It's really important with creative coding. It's what allows us to sort of keep pushing boundaries and finding new ways to do things. Just like with the drones and pushing graphics to the sky, curiosity is what will get us there. So that is me. Thank you. Sorry for